Forever Monday, written by Mike Grimes, copyright 2010. Part 1, Allison. Chapter 1, Day 183, Monday. An alarm clock went off. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. A woman with chestnut honey brown hair awakened in bed, on her belly, one pale leg and foot drawn upward, untangled from the covers. Her long hair, disheveled slightly, caught fire as the sunlight hit it, cascading down about her freckled shoulders and the pillow beneath her head. A bit of black, silky lingerie covered her upper body, though in her sleep, restless tossing and turning had helped one pale breast peek out. Her eyes opened, squinting in the early morning light, coming in through her high-rise apartment window. She blinked her naturally dark lashes, revealing large mahogany gems, sparkling like crystals above her freckled nose and cheeks. She looked out the windows across the city. The top floors of businesses and other apartment buildings were visible from her vantage point on the fluffy bed. Pigeons on the sill awoke her with a start, flew away spontaneously. The brunette suddenly realized an alarm was sounding off near her. She used her hand to search for the source of the din on a nightstand beside the bed. Not finding the off switch, she raised her head to look for it. Soon the room was silent. She lowered her head to the pillow. The fabric smelled of something interesting. Flowers, maybe, she thought. She fought to connect a name with the faint aroma, but could not. She stretched and arched her toes and feet, pink wrinkles growing and fading in her soles. She closed her eyes. She'd had a dream. About what? She could not remember. She opened her eyes again and rolled over onto her back. She shifted her black top as it threatened to strangle her upper body, and stretched her legs out straight. She studied her legs. They were thick, round, and womanly, with lots of freckles covering her knees and thighs. Her skin was hairless and looked very soft. She had no wrinkles or signs of age. Her toenails were painted a rich, bright red color. I have such short, stubby little tootsies, the woman thought. Her hands, as she held them out before herself, were a shape similar to her feet, with short fingers, pale skin, freckles, and pink-orange pads. There was no polish on her fingers, though. For a moment that disappointed her. She liked the red color of her toes. Her hands looked middle-aged, perhaps? She was not completely sure. Her arms gave her no clues either. She felt her belly rumble and touched it. It was round, spongy, and soft, and her hand traveled southward, and her eyes followed to satiny black panties that covered her lower abdomen and disappeared between her pale legs. She lifted the waistband and peeked inside. Seeing no hair, she sighed and released the band of her underwear. She pushed her arms upward and felt long hair. She held some and examined it. She checked its color, style, texture. Dark, but golden and coppery, slightly wavy, extremely soft. A few split ends. She looked at them curiously. The slight wave in her hair was pretty, and she admired it for a minute as it caught the light. She did not recognize her hair as her own. She sat up and looked all around the room she was in. Its walls were the same creamy white tone they had been the night before. Sunday. Yesterday was Sunday. But there were some dark curtains she did not recognize, thick and shadowy, framing the windows. Her bed was large. White sheets and black comforter covered it, though they were strewn about. Are these my sheets and blankets? She nearly smiled, not understanding why, then swung her feet to the floor and stood up. Carpet, medium pile, soft beneath her tiny toes. The fibers tickled her soles. She spotted a full-length mirror and went to it. The woman she saw in the reflection was a decent height, and indeed a pale brunette, possibly Irish. She was pretty, though the blur of a scar ran along her right temple. She frowned at it, not able to recall neither how nor when it got there. Freckles ran down from her shoulders to her arms and hands, down her thighs and knees. There were some on her breasts and cleavage, too. She removed her bra and panties, then pulled her underwear back up, recalling she had to go jogging. She paused for a moment, considering her reflection, both in part and in whole. I remember my jogging routine, but not what I look like. The room I'm in looks familiar, but the sheets and curtains? My name. It's Allison Meester. But exactly who am I? She stared at the scar on her forehead. It wasn't so bad, actually. She brushed her hair down over it, then back over her ears. Unsatisfied, she sighed and gave up. She turned, focusing on her round rear end, which was considerably wider than her tiny waist. She held its cheeks and jiggled them. They were soft but firm. Not bad, she thought. Could be worse. Her breasts were pale, with pink peach tips. They were light and round, without sagging. She guessed they were 100% natural. Allison glanced at the bureau nearby and grabbed a folded white t-shirt, slid it over her head and body. It hugged her body nicely, snug and flattering, but not smothering. She padded into the bathroom where she peed, wiped, washed her hands. She brushed her teeth thoroughly, rinsed with cool water. The water reminded her of something. But what? Allison dried her hands and then reached for a hair scrunchie, pulling her hair up into a moppy, casual ponytail. Loose wisps kissed her rosy cheeks. In the mirror there, she examined her face more closely. It was oval-shaped, with sculpted cheekbones and chin. There were deep creases in the spaces between her eyes and arched brows, and oddly attractive puffy spots beneath each eye. Her lashes were long and dark. Her teeth were white, but not perfect. The corners of her full lips curved upward a little when she smiled. She had dimples beneath each cheekbone. Laugh lines framed her eyes and lips as she posed and puckered. The rest of her apartment was the same as her bedroom. She recalled its layout and moved through it effortlessly, but did not recognize any of the furnishings or objects in each room. Allison went to the kitchen of the small apartment, saw a bottle of water on the counter. Beside it was a small blue bottle with one small white pill inside. The label on the bottle read, "Take in the morning." She understood perfectly, though she did not question the reason for the pill itself. I have to take it. I know that much. She opened the bottle and popped the tiny pill onto her tongue. It was bitter and a little salty, so she eagerly opened the bottle of water to wash it down, emptying half the bottle. The water was warm and bland. Room temperature. She decided to take it with her on her jog around the city. On the counter next to the pill bottle was a small post-it note. Written on it were the words, "Dr. Stone, 4 p.m. Don't forget." Allison looked to her left and saw a pad of post-it paper that matched the note that stuck to the counter. A pen was nearby. It was the same color as the writing on the note. She picked it up and began writing on the pad. The handwriting was a match to that of the note. She had written it. That was certain. She spotted a case of bottled water on the floor in the corner of the small kitchen. She thought about putting a few in the fridge to get them cold for when she returned, but there were already a few in there. After putting on a pair of snug, sporty running shorts, light blue ones, she pulled on a pair of ankle socks and sneakers that fit her perfectly. She stuffed her half-full water bottle and her keys into a black hip pouch that she saw there. She zipped the pack shut, put on a pair of sunglasses she found on the dining room table, and headed for the door. The air outside in the hall was stale, but not bothersome. Do I have neighbors? There were other doors in the hall, and she recognized the style and design of the building, but could not recall who lived in it besides her. Beside her apartment, there was a door marked "Restricted Access, Do Not Enter." She thought nothing of it. It was probably just for maintenance. Philadelphia was sunny and comfortably warm as Allison jogged through the tree-lined streets and grassy parks. Her ponytail swished side to side as she ran. She tried to recall the dream she'd had, but still had no luck. The sound of her feet on the ground, the patter and rhythm of it, was hypnotic to her. She ran at a pace that would not make her too out of breath, but still get her heart pumping. She apparently was not too out of shape. She found it quite easy to jog several miles before she even considered taking a break. The air warmed her as the sun rose higher in the sky. What was that dream about? Who was in it? A man? A boy? Myself? It frustrated Allison not to be able to remember. Like other things, apparently, the dream was gone, unable to be reclaimed by her memory. Birds chirped in the trees above as she finally paused near a large pond to catch her breath and drink some water. She gulped down the warm but refreshing liquid, then refilled the bottle in the water fountain nearby. Ducks and geese swam and flew about the pond. Allison sipped her water, which was much colder this time. A man walking his dog waved at her. No, he didn't. He couldn't have. I don't know him, do I? Not even his black and white husky looked familiar to her. An animal like that would stay in one's mind for quite some time. So would its owner. He was quite handsome. The man waved again. Allison smiled and waved back, gently dismissing him in a friendly manner. Do I know you? Do you know me? I don't think so. A short distance from her apartment building, Allison pulled 2 $1 bills from her hip pouch to pay for a cup of coffee. Vanilla cappuccino, the barista had called it. She sipped the hot beverage and moaned toward the young man behind the counter. Oh, beautiful, thank you. See you tomorrow, he said as she turned to leave. You bet, she called out, waving over her shoulder. She could feel his eyes on her bottom, hips, and legs. So what? It gave her a tingle of ecstasy to be desired like that. At home, she stripped off her jogging clothes and tossed them into a hamper. She showered, delighting at how the sudsy water rinsed the sweat ends from her skin and hair. She wanted to shave her legs, but they were still smooth from the last time. She rinsed her hair, body, underarms, back, between her legs, toes. She dried off and wrapped her white towel around her curvy body. She put on deodorant that smelled like baby powder. She combed her damp hair with her fingers and went into the bedroom to get dressed. She sipped her coffee and looked out the window. The sun was rising steadily, and it was shaping up to be a very pretty day. Not hot, not cool. Is it spring? It sure feels like it out there. Allison dressed for the day, picking out low-rise jeans that flared out at the ankle and a tight black t-shirt with a pink butterfly on it. She put on clean socks and a pair of thick-heeled boots. She put on a little makeup, lipstick, mascara, lots of eyeshadow. Her ears were pierced, so she put in large hoop earrings. She looked herself over, posing this way and that before her full-length mirror. Damn, you look good. She made her way to the dining room, where a wooden desk was against the wall behind a round table. There was a thin composition notebook on the desk and a pen. She stood over the notebook for a moment, pondering it. Did I put it there? Did I buy it? She picked it up along with the pen and sat down at the table. She opened the book. It was blank inside. Every page was. On the cover there was one word, name, with a long line next to it. She opened to the first page, wondering. She began to write. My name is Allison Meester. I live at 401 Broad Street in Philadelphia. I live in a decent apartment and have clothes that make me feel... She paused, wondering what word to use, then scribbled out everything she had written so far and started over. Today I woke up, had water, took my pill. I went jogging. The air felt good. I saw a man at the park. He had a beautiful dog. He waved at me, but I don't know who he was. He was staring at me. I enjoyed it. I had coffee later. It smelled good, so I bought one with the $2 I had on me. It was sweet and light in color. There was a creamy taste. Something called vanilla was in it. I took a shower and got dressed. I have a scar on my forehead, on the side, near my eye. Where did it come from? It's like the dream I had last night. Like most things, it's in there, in my head. I know it, but I just can't remember, no matter how hard I try. When I look in the mirror, I can't describe how it feels. I do not remember the woman I see. I do not know her. She is pretty, but she's a stranger to me. A tear hit the page. Allison closed the notebook. She got some tissues from a box on the desk, blew her nose, wiped her eyes. She glanced at the clock on the microwave. It was 9:15. Suddenly her crying spell was over, and her mood elevated as if she had never cried at all. She saw unfamiliar movie boxes on a shelf across the living room, near a wide television. She went to them, curious. She did not recognize the titles, actors, or plot lines. She knew what movies were, and she knew that there were silver discs inside the boxes, and what to do with those discs. But when she watched one of them, a comedy about aliens, it was as though she had never seen the images on the screen before at all. Nothing about it was familiar, but Allison laughed and enjoyed the film nonetheless. When it was over, she was ready for lunch. She decided to eat at the park. Maybe I'll see the man with the dog again. The prospect of that made her smile. She really was quite handsome. He really was quite handsome. Allison ate, enjoying the fresh air, but she did not see the man with the dog anywhere. She finished her meal and a sandwich from a place called Subway, and then, for no reason at all, decided to go shopping for a spyglass. Part 2. Copyright 2010. Later, after her appointment with Dr. Stone, Allison was in her car, on her way home, recapping the conversation. She sighed, rubbing her forehead. She let what he had told her sink in. Was it true? Had I really been in such a horrible accident that I've lost my memories? All of it? Everything? Would I forget everything that happened to me today by the time I wake up tomorrow? My jog, the man at the park, the boy at the coffee shop? Everyone and everything in my mind erased by morning? Will it happen every single day like he said it will? No, it just can't be that easy or morbid. She tried to push the thought out of her mind. When Allison got home that evening, after shopping for dinner and a spyglass, she was relaxed enough to go on with her night. It was as though the negative aspects of her talk with Dr. Stone had never happened. She put a CD in the player by the TV, a girl named Curly, who sang about an army of love. Allison liked the beat and the singer's voice. She put her dinner fixings away for the time being and then went back to her new toy to undo its packaging. She unwrapped the spyglass and held its cool shaft as she walked over to the window in the living room. She extended the spyglass, switched a lens inside to change its magnification, and held it to her eye. She looked out over the city, then down into a street several blocks away. She saw a cat sauntering up the sidewalk with a pigeon in its mouth. "Here, kitty, kitty," Allison heard herself say out loud. "What you got there?" The cat paused then, briefly looking over its shoulder, then disappeared around a corner. It gave Allison an idea. Her apartment needed another life, a cat. She collapsed the spyglass and set it upright on the coffee table. Balancing on the doorframe of the kitchen, she kicked off her boots and peeled off her socks, flexed her newly freed pink toes. She padded barefoot into the kitchen to make dinner. She cooked chicken and garlic and rosemary, mac and cheese from a box, and fresh broccoli. She drank milk, strawberry. She cleaned as she went, then washed her plate, glass, and silverware after eating. She went to do laundry, which included the black shirt she'd been wearing all afternoon. The jeans could last one more day. She put on a long, white sleep shirt and decided to spend the rest of the evening watching TV. She watched a program or two of the crime drama genre, then put in the second movie from the collection on the shelf. She'd never seen this one before either, just like the one she'd watched earlier. It was a romantic comedy about two rival lawyers who get drunk and end up married. The same redhead from the Alien movie was in this one also. Allison quite enjoyed it and cried for joy at the end. Allison's composition book and pen were in her lap when she finally clicked off the TV. She looked down and realized she had drawn a remarkably realistic portrait of a little boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old. She was pleased with her apparent level of talent, though she had no clue where the image of the boy had come from. From one of the movies or shows I just watched? The park? Did I see him through the spyglass? Or with someone on the street? While I was jogging? Driving in the park to have lunch? She didn't waste too much time thinking about it. She didn't recall having such a talent, but it excited her. She would do more artwork another time. maybe buy some art supplies, if by stroke of luck she happened to remember. Right now, however, she was tired. It was late. She wrote a short journal entry in her notebook, then got up from her fluffy sofa. Allison went to the desk in the dining room and slipped her journal into a drawer near the bottom. She then suddenly remembered that Dr. Stone had given her a brand new journal, with instructions to use it the next day. She turned to the dining room table to get the small white plastic bag he had given her. Inside it was a new journal, just as she expected, as well as 2 small prescription bottles, one orange, one blue. She removed the items from the bag and set the new journal on the desk with the pen on top of it. She went to the kitchen, where she threw away the plastic bag. Allison studied the 2 pill bottles. The label on the orange one said, "Take before bed." The one in the blue bottle was identical to the one she'd seen that morning. "Take in the morning." There was a small solitary white pill in each bottle. Allison gulped down the bedtime pill with a glass of water and threw away the empty bottle. Before leaving the kitchen, she rinsed her drinking glass clean and set it on the rack on the sideboard to dry. She took a bottled water from the case on the floor and set it and the blue pill bottle on the counter where they had been that morning, along with a note to see Dr. Stone at 4 the next day. She went to her purse in the closet and put $2 from it in the hip pack and set it on the dining room table. She would get coffee at the little shop after her jog, if she remembered.